love the system, occasionally play it, or absolutely despise it, we can all really agree on one thing. The Nintendo Wii is kind of a disappointment. We were expecting a ton of games with interesting controls, and in the end, that just didn't happen to the extent that anyone was expecting. The reason I'm bringing this up is because that was the entire marketing ploy of the Conduit. This game by High Voltage Software promised that it would be fun, would challenge the seasoned gamer, and would push the Wii's graphics to its limits. So, it's been in development for a year and made a lot of promises. That said, some things make sense on paper but just can't be done in real life. Is the Conduit a case of that? Or is this a game that really does pull it off? Let's find out. The plot of the Conduit is the most original, mind-bending thing of all time. You have never imagined anything like this, and you've never seen anything like this. What's the plot about? It is a first-person shooter about an alien invasion. Okay, so it's not exactly new, but trust me, the Conduit does pepper in its own variety. It's actually much less about an alien invasion and much more about conspiracy. Think of something kind of like X-Files. I'm not going to reveal a whole lot, but I will say that amongst a few predictable plot points, there's actually some genuine surprises, and if you weren't expecting much of a story, I think you'll be surprised here. The single player of the Conduit can be described as very linear, but very fun. You just go from one place to another, shooting enemies along the way. It's a very twitch-based, fast run-and-gun first-person shooter with a bit of room for cover and strategy. And overall, it's very fast and instant gratification-based, which is missed a bit in video games. Now, that's not to say all you'll be doing is killing enemies. There are some little bits where you can use the ASC, a small device that can be used to pick up collectibles, find hidden messages, or solve these little puzzles. Solve the puzzles, and you can find these little rooms that let you restock on ammo and find prototype weapons. While it does add variety, sometimes I wish that there was a bit more imagination in how it's implemented, but overall it adds a nice bit of touch into the game. Now, as I said, you'll be fighting a lot of enemies, so it's important that they're a challenge and put up a good fight. And they do, and this is mostly because of the AI. They don't stand in the open and charge at you randomly and shoot at you. Well, they sometimes do that, but it all depends. Most of the time, they'll take cover, they'll keep a distance, they'll throw grenades, they'll heal themselves, they'll try to flank you and get behind you. They're actually pretty smart. I was surprised, honestly, with the AI. I was expecting it to be much more simple. It doesn't compare to Fear, but then again, I don't think anything is for a while. But if you're really expecting these guys to just stand around completely slack-jawed, you will be surprised. That said, there are a few cases of glitches, but even still, they don't break the experience, and the enemies do put up a good fight. On the harder difficulties, expect to die quite a bit. This unfortunately makes it disappointing that the boss fights just don't put up much of a fight. These enemies, which you fight over and over, honestly just don't have much of a challenge. They don't approach you, they don't charge you, they don't fire relentlessly at you, they just seem to stand around as bullet sponges. As a spectacle they're nice, but honestly the fact that this thing poses less of a threat than one of these is a bit wrong. Now you might be looking at this and thinking, this is pretty average, what sets this apart? As much as the fact that it is kind of a crutch, the Wii controls add a lot to this game. Seriously, anyone who's played Metroid Prime Corruption will tell you this, and this game pushes it way further. Because you can customize your controls so much. You can change the size of the bounding box, the turn speed, the run speed even. There's tons of customization, and once you tinker around with it a bit, you'll find your perfect zone. On top of that, there's a bit of motion controls in. You thrust the Wii remote forward to do a melee attack, and you flick the nunchuck to throw a grenade, and they both feel pretty good. In fact, these controls alone almost make the entire game what it is. And just to make things more interesting, some of the weapons use the controls very well, such as the Hive gun, which you twist the remote to change the size of the reticule, so you can either fire it on a pinpoint, or you can fire it in more of a spray. My personal favorite being the Shrieker, which fires grenades, and you can move them around like guided missiles by using the pointer. They're all fun to use and use the controls very well. These great controls carry over into the online multiplayer, which feels kind of like a cross between GoldenEye on the N64 and Unreal Tournament. As a result, it's really fast and fun, and there isn't too much of a network coding problem. There's rarely any lag that screws up the game, but you will occasionally get some game crashes from time to time. It's tons of fun and actually makes really good use of friend codes. It's not too much of a hassle, and you can add any of your friends' friends, so you can network really easily. Plus it's compatible with Wii Speak, which is always a plus. If there's any complaints I have, there's two of them. One, some of the maps can be a little bit large, so you get lost a bit, but that's a small complaint. My other problem is that the game modes could use some imagination. There's free-for-all, Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and then some of the more interesting ones are called ASC Football, where one player has the ASC and everyone tries chasing him down, taking him out, and the other one called Bounty Hunter, where everyone has only one target they can go for. There's some of the more creative game modes, but still, it just seems like they could have put in more imagination into the multiplayer. Even still, it's a great addition, and as long as there's a community to back it up, it will stay alive for a long time. Now, High Voltage Software promised us some really good graphics for this game, and how did they do? They did pretty good. The tech is there, the lighting's really nice, there are bloom effects, there's depth of field, the character models look nice, looks good overall, but still, it just seems like it could have looked cleaner. It just doesn't look as good as, say, Super Mario Galaxy, which came out 2 years ago and never credited its graphics once. In terms of music, it's pretty good. It's a little bit cliched, but it gets the job done and gets your heart pumping. The voice acting is also pretty good, but some of the enemies sound exactly like the Covenant from Halo. It's a bit ridiculous. Now, if there's any complaints I have, it's these. There's no split-screen multiplayer, which is because of the engine, but still it's a disappointment. 2, there are achievements, but they're all kind of bland and uninspired. The last is that the game is just kind of short. True, that's the status quo of games these days, but I just feel like this could have been changed a bit. So there you have it. The Conduit did a pretty good job at doing what it wanted to do. It didn't exactly redefine the first-person shooter, and it didn't kill Halo or anything, but it's a pretty good effort. So how much you'll enjoy it all depends on how many first-person shooters you played before. If you only own a Wii, then you should have already picked it up, honestly. Now, if you own other systems, there's still good use in picking this up. If you don't feel like you've been completely tired of FPS, then I suggest you get it, because it is a lot of fun and the controls add a lot. That said, if you have played a ton of FPSs and you've hit a point where it's just a grind and you just want the highest quality and absolutely will not take any exceptions, then you might want to skip out on this, but at least give it a try at some point, because the controls do add a lot. So, The Conduit. Pretty good game, certainly worth the cash, go pick it up. But it's still not as good as World of Goo. Nothing is. You have gotten World of Goo, right?